5 to 10 years?
Well, certainly the first and foremost priority is to get Ventura County's economic engine going at full speed ahead and getting people back to work. Ventura County's unemployment rate is larger now than the national average. We need to reduce that. Clearly, we've got to get people back to work. Getting people back to work means money is in their pocket and they're spending money, and we're going to continue, that will continue with the economic recovery. So I think that that is first and foremost the issue. And certainly vis-a-vis Ventura County and looking at where are the strong engines for economic growth. And certainly the naval bases are critically important, and we need to do everything we possibly can do to secure that and make sure that there's not a BRAC that comes up that proposes the naval bases here to leave in any way, shape, or form. So that is going to be absolutely critical. And then, of course, I think Port Hueneme is another part of Ventura County's economic engine, and that is to make sure that Ventura County Port Hueneme continues to thrive and to grow. I believe, I've always said this, that I think Port Hueneme has great potential for great growth, being the only deep water port between Southern and Northern California. Thank you.
Thank you. I know those minute and a half.
For the county of Ventura, and what we're looking at right now with the state releasing prisoners and having to put them in jails and not having sufficient capacity, as well as the hit on education, and also from the aspect of welfare and Social Security, we have some big issues. But from a congressional perspective, I think the most important thing is that we need to get jobs. We need to help the economy. I have a 10-point job plan, and I'd like to go through that until I'm buzzed out, and that is, first of all, I think that we need to make sure that we increase job training programs in the sectors of the economy that are growing, and particularly for veterans coming back from Afghanistan and other places. We need to be able to see that they can transition back into society. We need to invest government resources in the type of infrastructure that is needed, like our Sacramento Delta, like the bridges that are substandard. We need to keep agriculture a viable industry. It is one of the largest economic generators in our county. We need to support our naval base and protect it from closure, and I've testified at hearings and will continue to do that. We need to attract other businesses because of our high quality of life to our area, and we need to streamline bureaucracy so that we can allow for businesses to expand. And we need to invest, most importantly, in higher education. Right now, the state of California is failing us with expensive tuitions and high debts for our
Have to buzz
students.
you in
Thank
right
you.
there. So, thank you. And Jess, the Violence Against Women Act, would you vote for? And if you're not familiar, then maybe how do you stand on women's rights? And then also, would you vote to repeal the Defense of Marriage Act?
I don't think the Defense of Marriage Act is a fair bill because it impinges on people's civil rights. And as far as the violence on women, I do agree with the extension of it.
Thank you.
Expansion of it, thank you.
Jess, same question to you. The Violence Against Women Act and also repealing the Defense of Marriage Act.
Well, when you mix religion with politics, you get more politics, obviously. You know, our nation is considered the fountain of freedom, and I don't go along with anything that impinges on our civil rights. Of course, I support traditional family values, but I have opposed discrimination of any kind my entire life, and I would also oppose discrimination concerning this. People should have the right to do what they choose to do, as long as it's not impinging on someone else's civic rights. And you know, some people like Rocky Road, and some people like vanilla. Thank you. And I support anything that, concerning women's rights, equal pay. I support that there be no violence against women around the world. I support all those issues very strongly for women.
Thank you. And Al, same question to you, your position on the Violence Against Women Act and also the Defense of Marriage Act.
Well,
Women Act and also Defense of Marriage Act.
Well, on the Violence Against Women Act, this is a confusing question because that was originally enacted in 1994. That's the act that I would reauthorize if I were in Congress. There have been several other proposals on this issue to not reauthorize and take away some of the protections for women in this act. I mean, this act is about combating domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault. This is critically important, and since 1994, violence actually has dropped by 50%. And many of the House Republicans now in Congress they don't want to reauthorize this, or they want to make some very significant changes. So I would reauthorize the act that was enacted in 1994. In terms of repealing DOMA, absolutely. Actually, I was the legislator in the California legislature who carried the bill to ask Congress to repeal DOMA. So emphatically, yes, I would vote to repeal DOMA.
Okay, thank you. Jess, we're going to begin with you.
And I think there's no question that Medicare in Washington now is under siege. It's been, the House Republicans have proposed several different budgets to really utterly gut Medicare. So this is a really important issue that we must absolutely fight for. And I think that you need to be clear that you can't support the Bush tax cuts for the very, very wealthy and say that you're going to protect Medicare. You can't say both of those things. And I think that's what Republicans are trying to get away with in Washington. And I don't think we can allow them to say that because it just can't happen otherwise. And Social Security as well is, I will fight and defend Social Security as we know it. We need to figure out a longer-term plan for Social Security. But again, I think House Republicans in Washington, their plan is to privatize Social Security and take that money that has been in that lockbox for us seniors to take advantage of when retirement comes. They want to take that money and gamble it away on Wall Street. And so I would absolutely, vehemently oppose that and will continue to fight ardently for both Medicare and Social Security.
Thank you, Julia. Linda, we'll wrap up.
Defend Social Security. And I agree, it is something that we earn in terms of Social Security. And I don't believe that unless we increase taxes, there's no other way it means I'm going to want to get rid of Medicare. I think there's a lot of things we can do, including end the war in Afghanistan, which will save money, including ending corporate tax loopholes. I don't think corporations should be able to get off with no taxes, for example. I think that there is Medicare fraud that we can deal with, and it needs to be dealt with. I think we can provide health care for less cost and have it be better quality. For example, at the County of Ventura, we have reduced the cost of prescription medication by $8 million a year. That's just one little county in all of the United States. And that's because we were able to work with the private sector and buy in bulk and be able to reduce those costs. We can emphasize preventative care. That would also reduce costs. So I don't see things as completely black and white that, if you don't do, tax increases, therefore you're going to end Medicare. I think we have a lot of opportunity. It's a tremendous budget out there in Washington. We need to look at it more carefully and see where we can reduce costs and still preserve Medicare and Social Security. Thank you.
Okay, Al, we're going to begin with you on the next one.
Finishing 6 years in the legislature, and both at the local level, I work very successfully with Republicans in the community of which I live, and I worked very successfully in the legislature with Republicans, and have actually co-authored bills with Republicans and had Republicans work with me on particular bills, and I have sent bills and been signed by both a Republican governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and a Democratic governor, Jerry Brown. So a couple of examples. I co-authored a bill with Joel Anderson just a year or so ago about a bill to allow school districts to sell old textbooks to provide some more revenue in their district. I carried a bill with Senator Sheila Kuehl to clean up Santa Susana Field Lab and worked with my Republican colleagues who helped me move that bill through the Assembly. But you know, there are real issues sometimes that we need to really fight for, real issues that affect real people, and I will continue to fight for those important issues, but I will do so also working collaboratively with the other side of the aisle, and I think I will take that experience to Washington with me.
Thank you. Linda, some examples for you of working with the other party, and what would you do in Washington?
Is because I believe strongly that Republicans and Democrats need to work together, and that isn't happening. And it is because of the hyper-partisanship that's going on, where, for example, Ms. Brownley can't get the disclosure bill that is a good bill passed because she can't get Republican support. I was able to get campaign reform approved at the City of Thousand Oaks, which was a split board of Republicans and Democrats. Also, I was able to actually get approved something that I'm being criticized for, which is a park in Santa Rosa Valley, which was approved both by the City of Thousand Oaks helping to fund it, as well as the County of Ventura. I've also stopped lawsuits by being able to put people in a room from the Triumphant Sanitation District that was suing Las Virgenes Municipal Water District. Just put them in a room, and in one day I was able to get that settled. I was also able to work to see that we got to the sheriff and the DA that were suing us to settle that. But I think most importantly we need to have the hyper-partisanship stop. And unless people are going to come together and agree to work with both sides of the aisle, nothing's going to change. And it is true, special interest money has a lot to do with it. And that's why I'm not taking any special interest money. I'm not taking money from the PACs like my colleague. I'm not taking any money from unions or corporations. I am endorsed by unions, but I'm not taking any money. And that leaves me free and uninfluenced by special interests. Thank you.
Jess.
Of comprehensive immigration reform. But no one here in Ventura County or anywhere else in our country should have to live in the shadows, and we shouldn't condone an economy that is in the shadows. So I will work hard on this particular issue. With a growing population of Latinos in Ventura, that should be celebrated. It's a wonderful thing for Ventura County, and I will certainly, as someone who has been a legislator before, I try very hard to listen, to seek guidance, to seek counsel, to understand what the issues are, the most compelling issues are, and I will continue to do that as if I am elected your congresswoman, to really connect with my Latina brothers and sisters and determine their issues and help solve them.
The district is Latino, and what about American workers being displaced?
Well, we are a nation of immigrants. We are also a nation of laws. And to me, it's kind of dumbfounding when you go driving through the Ventura County and see that our fields are being picked by people who came into our country illegally. And 90% of these people are undocumented. So to me, we need to provide not necessarily a pathway to citizenship, because we do have one, but rather a pathway to residency so that they don't have to live in the shadows. And I think that we need to be able to assure at the level of Congress that we can have that debate in an honest fashion, because so much of what's going on now is so, well, like the attack mill, it's just ideologues pushing and posturing, and unless we come together, we're not going to deal with this. And it is something that both Democrats and Republicans want to see. We do need that kind of comprehensive immigration reform, and we're not going to get it as long as we continue to, posture and not come to the table. I also agree it's really important to be able to listen and to be able to hear. And I've gone and I've met with leaders of farm worker women, and they hear about their plights in terms of, for example, exposure to pesticides, to hear about the fears that they have of being, dropping their child off from school and ending up getting deported So we definitely need to address it, and we definitely need to hear.
Thank you. Jess, same question to you.
Jobs in the field, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that we do need to secure our borders for our national interests. We do have to make sure that no Americans are being displaced by any foreign worker that's not here legally. Those are certainly things that we have to do. And then thirdly, I think we have to find a way to making these people legal to work here. I think that would be the first step that we need to take. When you do go by the fields and you see all these people working in the farms there from like 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning, and as Linda mentioned, you know that half of them are undocumented, and that the Farm Board actually puts that on their website, that half of these people are undocumented. We do have to do something about this. We are a land of laws, but we're also a land of justice, and it's not justice to take these people and use them and then want to toss them aside. There is certainly strength in our diversity, and we have to help these folks. A lot of them are stopped of getting into the system because of the cost, the language barrier, and just timid. They're just timid about a lot of these things. In 1996, I was chairman of the USA Citizen Action Network, and we put together a program that helped over 2,000 people become legal citizens, and the only cost to them was $46. We had police departments, the INS, volunteers, and everyone else, attorneys, working to help these people through the process and get them here. So what we need is leadership like that takes action, that helps these people, and not just rhetoric.
I do want to give all of the candidates a chance to talk about education. We have several questions about education, and Julia, you're up first on this one. So would you support direct funding of school districts on a per-student basis by passing the budgets and decisions, or bypassing state legislature? So as a congressperson, would you support direct funding to school districts? And can you talk a little bit about your views of strengthening alien community colleges and other systems?
Well, on the first question, I obviously at school finance in California is, and the way we distribute money, I think is, we've got to really take that off the table and recreate the system, because it is very complex and convoluted and no longer really reflects what we're trying to achieve, which is student outcomes. But to answer the question directly, I do believe the legislature should appropriate the money. We need to appropriate more money. Prop 98 is a formula that protects the floor and not protects the ceiling, and it should just be the floor. But we need to give school districts the flexibility that they need, particularly in these tougher economic times when there's less money to be distributed. School districts need more and more flexibility, and Sacramento needs to kind of create accountability so that we are looking for outcomes and achievement, and particularly student achievement. So the other question was with regards to community colleges. Community colleges are an essential education institution. Community colleges is the working class institution. Community colleges provide the opportunity for students, any student in California, to go to college. And community colleges provide transfer to higher education and career technical education.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot to answer in a minute and a half. I'm asking the state, and where do you stand on solutions for alien community colleges?
Well, I am very concerned that the state is not prioritizing education. I don't think it's the federal role then to step in. Those things are pretty darn bad. They're talking about ending enrollment in 2014 in the Cal State Channel Islands is being effective, as well as all the Cal State. In addition, the UCs are charging so much in tuition that it's no longer affordable to middle class. And the community colleges, the most essential for people just to get something like automotive job training. They're closing that down at Oxnard College. And it's because the state is not coming forward with the money. They can put money into prisons, but they're not putting money into education. And so while I think Julia Brownley has her heart in the right place, we need to be able to have someone who can actually get both Republicans and Democrats in the state legislature to actually prioritize education. Why isn't that happening? And from a federal perspective, I don't like the idea that the federal government would tell teachers in the classroom, you know, how to teach. And what we have right now with the No Child Left Behind law is you have teachers basically teaching to the test, and that is failing our students. So I think education is so very important, not only for our economy and job growth, for our future and for our children. And watching what's happening now, it's just it needs to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed at the state level particularly.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. And Jess? A ton of questions. Many of them are directed at individual candidates. I'm going to try to do my best to get some of those in right now. Linda, you're up first on this one. And Linda, you have said previously that you would not vote to repeal the Bush tax cuts for the wealthy, but that cutting deficits is very important. The question is, what specific programs would you cut to reach $1 trillion in savings?
I think you're quoting me wrong, Mr. Marin.
Well,
what I said
am quoting the question. The audience might have it wrong.
It is my belief that I don't want to go to having to increase taxes when there are other things that we can do. I'm not a die-hard one way or the other, and I think that's part of the problem that we have. I'm willing to talk, I'm willing to negotiate, and I'm willing to work. And I understand how important it is that we have a huge deficit. And we're about to see another battle for that deficit ceiling. And I'll tell you right now, if the right wing and the Tea Party are going to push it again till we get to the brink, that is going to hurt not only our nation, but the global economy. So I think it's important not to have people that are strident one way or the other, but actually willing to come to the table. I mentioned previously some of the things that I would look at from getting our troops home from Afghanistan. That will save money, from better, more efficient ways of doing health care, because that is a large cost to our government. There are several programs that I can see that we can look at for efficiencies. There is a lot of Medicare fraud, for example. That needs to be dealt with. And I don't consider having corporations have to pay their fair share as a tax increase. I actually think that we all need to pay our fair share. And yeah, sometimes it is going to hurt, but it is really important, I think, to make sure that we can protect our economy. And we're seeing horrible things happen in Greece right now for failure of their ability to protect it.
Thank you. Jess, a couple of questions. You've raised the least amount of money of some of these candidates, and what will you do to try and, or what makes you think you'll be able to be elected? And if elected, how do you plan to represent the East County?
Well, unless they have a different type of human beings on the East County than they do on the West County, I guess I would have a difficulty. But since we're all the same, I think we're the same species here, aren't we? East County, would you raise your hand so I can recognize what species you are? West County. So, you know, I think, you know, there's homes in foreclosure in Thousand Oaks, and there's homes in foreclosure in Oxnard and Ventura. I think we're all suffering from the same issues here. I think I'm quite capable of recognizing what the issues is. As a homegrown person here in Ventura County my entire life, I understand what you have been through and what you are living through right now, and I understand the issues that are facing people around the kitchen table. So East County, West County is no different. You may be earning more on the East County than they are earning on the West County, but we still have the same problems. We're still trying to put our kids through school. We're still trying to pay our mortgages. I don't think I would have any problem working with people in the East or West County. As I say, we're all facing the same problems, and especially those are the problems that I'm very good at solving. I'm a very good negotiator. I know how to work with people. I know how to build those bridges, and I know how to get things done. And in the final analysis, that's what we need. Someone that knows how to get things done. Thank you.
Thank you. Al, the question to you, the person in the audience is stating that you had a deadline of May 11th to submit a response to the Federal Election Commission, I believe. And have you submitted that response? It was regarding an inquiry about your committee. And if you have responded, what did you say?
Okay. No, I think I missed that one because it would take me about 10 or 20 hours. And when I ran in for Congress in 2000, they called them, and I called them again this time, and they said it would cost me a penalty of about $200. So I have to judge what is a man's time worth. You can value your time at $8 an hour. You can value your time at $100 an hour. Or there have been years where I've made $400,000 or $500,000 or more. You can value your time at $1,000 an hour. For me to spend 10 to 20 hours doing all this paperwork where I can pay $200 and spend 10 to 20 hours out there talking to the voters, I'll do it. So I checked with them and they said, sure, you can file it after, but there's a $200 penalty. Some of you guys may not got that memo.
Okay, David, the question to you, and this must have been based on something you said earlier. Did you mean to say earlier that members of Congress should be able to vote from their home state? That they should not have to be in Washington to actually vote? Could you clarify, please?
You bet, absolutely, that is correct. Why do they want you back in Washington, D.C.? When you go back there, ladies and gentlemen, when you see the meetings that they're taking, members of Congress, they're not taking meetings with you and me. They're taking meetings with special interests, lobbyists, and party bosses all day long. They're outnumbered 5 to 1. You've got to get them out of Washington, D.C. With technology being the way it is, we should be able to vote securely from our district office. I would have a district office here in Thousand Oaks. I want to be surrounded by voters. I want to be surrounded by the people who, the constituents and the voters who helped put me there. Not by lobbyists, not by party bosses. Okay? And so that's something that's I'm very, very passionate about and we've been talking a lot about. And again, the corruption that it used to take several years before these members of Congress used to cave in. So many would go back there. I think their intentions were good, their intentions were pure, but they hang around these folks so long that they end up caving after a period of time. Those folks end up contributing to their campaigns, and another vicious cycle starts. And we have to break that. There's things like Skype, video conferencing. You should only have to go back to Washington, D.C. once or twice a year. And also the expense to the taxpayers of that member of Congress, having the staff back in Washington, D.C. of 25, 30 staff members. And all of that could come to a halt. And again, this video conference, this video electronic voting, I think is the way to do that.
Thank you. Julia, the question to you. You have been silent on some of the concerns Linda has raised regarding the Democratic literature purporting to describe her thinking. Would you please answer those concerns?
Well, there's been obviously some mail out there that is done by the Democratic, the DCCC mail. I think it's probably a little bit over the top, but there's mail out there. And I really would encourage everyone who objects to call the DCCC and call them and express your concerns. But I will make one point, and I have also have my own mail out there, and I've said it earlier in this forum, and that is, I don't know how you can protect or defend the Bush tax cuts for the very, very wealthy and also protect Medicare. And I don't know how you say that you might caucus with the Republicans when you get to Congress, when it is the House Republicans who are presenting time and time again budget proposals that want to gut Medicare. And so I'll stand by that issue. The other mail piece, call DCCC.
How about the women's right to choose?
Linda,
No.
We're going to move on to the next question, and you can answer when you wish. Linda, as you would expect, there's quite a few cards here asking for, and we've been through this before, who did you vote for president in 2008? Who will you be voting for president this fall? And if elected, will you vote for a Democrat as speaker? Who will you caucus with? You know what these questions are asking, and I'll give you a minute and a half to respond.
Are you now, or have you ever been, a member of the... For 21 years, I was a Democrat. For 16 years, I was a Republican. The Republican Party has changed. I am no longer a Republican. I'm an independent.
Please hold the place.
I would like to, if I may continue, Mr. Mayor, and I don't think my time is up. I think that it is very telling about what I'm being attacked for. And this is a mailer from Julia Brownley saying I'm not for pro-choice, and that really bothers me. It also says that I want to end Medicare. That really bothers me. But besides the fact that people who are supporting Julia Brownley are paying for these mailers, I want to point out that there's a lot more issues that we have to deal with than the partisanship. think about it. How many here, for example, might be married to someone from the opposite party? I was, and I am now. And I think it's really important to know that that hyperpartisanship is causing these mailers to go out. What worse thing can you call someone if you're a Democrat? Julia Brownley saying I was really a Republican. That's like the worst thing you can call someone. What if you're a Republican? What's the worst thing you can call someone? Well, Audra Strickland was calling me a Democrat. And that whole idea is what's wrong, and these kind of horrible attack mailers attacking me for my not being in a party is what's wrong with Congress right now.
Linda, thank you. Okay, we'll move on. And Jess, of global warming, what are your views?
On high-speed rail, I am, again, very supportive of the concept. Actually met with Ray LaHood, Secretary of Transportation, maybe 6 weeks or so ago, about this issue. Clearly, it's a priority for the Obama administration and the Secretary. And I'm very supportive, and I think we in California and in the nation need to come up with better transit systems in our country. The concern I have in the moment, being in the legislature, is with regards to the cost and the budget and so forth, and making sure that we really get that right. There is no question in my mind that as the population grows in California, and it will grow, that's a true fact, by expanding more and more airports is not going to be the solution. And I think that we need to be forward thinking and looking into the future and figuring out how to do high-speed rail, but do it responsibly with the money that we have. With regards to AB 32, one of the best pieces of legislation ever signed in the state of California, and I think AB 32's goals are right on, and I think AB 32 is already, we're seeing it happen, leverage new technologies and innovations, new types of automobiles here in California that is going to be great for California's economy.
Thank you. And Linda, same question to you. Your views on global warming and also support for high-speed rail.
Well, I think the high-speed rail project that we've got going in the state of California has turned into a boondoggle. I think that something like $1 million just in consultant fees went out before they'd done any plans. Tremendous amounts of money, poor planning in terms of looking at trying to get one little section near Fresno instead of going where it's needed the most. So there's a lot of concerns with that, and I also have concerns about the special interests that might be pushing some agendas with it. But I agree, we need to be able to fund mass transit and transit means buses here in Ventura County. And right now we have some buses that are standing room only and not the funds to increase that service. A lot of that has to do with the federal government and how they do spend funds. For example, we're paying $12 million for 950 people to ride Metrolink. Well, it's nice that they can ride Metrolink, but those monies could be used to help considerably more people get on the bus. We need to be able to find better ways for kids to be able to get to school on the bus too, when they need to. But let me get to the question about climate change. There's no doubt that man has an effect on climate change, and there are many things that we can do. And I was on the Air Resources Board Regional Targets Advisory Committee that looked at not only how to do it through standing facilities like smokestacks, automotive and transit and transportation caused greenhouse gas emissions, but also just the concept of land use and what we can do to make cities more walkable so people don't have to drive or commute.
Covering North Korea, China, Iran, Afghanistan.
Well, I'll start with Afghanistan, and I certainly believe and have said before that we need to withdraw our troops as quickly as we possibly can, obviously without compromising any kind of security for the U.S. And we need to work, the U.S. needs to work with the people of Afghanistan to try to very much form a stable government there as well. With North Korea, you know, they need to get rid of their nuclear arsenal, and I think the United States at this particular point is emphasizing diplomacy. I think we need to continue down that path at the moment. I think it's moving slowly, but I think diplomacy in an effort to really have success, I guess, is the route of diplomacy. And then with Israel, I have been challenged on this issue a couple of different times, and I just want to say unequivocally that I do not support Iran acquiring any kind of nuclear capacity. I don't think it's in Israel's best interest to strike Iran unilaterally at this particular point in time. We need to work with our partners and our allies to build coalitions in the Middle East. But let me say, Israel is one of our strongest allies, and I will support Israel unequivocally.
Thank you. Linda, same questions to you. Your views on foreign policy, especially around North Korea, China, Iran, Afghanistan.
Thank you. I think with China we have some good opportunities as they are a huge market for the United States wares. But I also have concerns about their human rights. So we need to do what we can through negotiation. With Iran, I think for sure they don't get the bomb. The nuclear capability would be not only not in our United States' best interest, but not in the best interest of the Middle East, and particularly for Israel. And I think we have to be strong for Israel. They are our best friend in the Middle East. We have to assure that they survive and that they aren't challenged. And Iran it threatens the state of Israel. And so we need to do what we can from certainly sanctions and negotiations, but we have to be there for our friends. As far as Afghanistan, I think we need to get our troops home, as I've mentioned. North Korea, again, another situation where we need to get them to the table, and there have been some efforts towards that to see that they also don't become nuclear capable. Syria, and I know that they've also been testing some bombs too, which is a big concern. Syria also, we saw with the Arab Spring, it was very heartening to see people rise up, and it took incredible courage. And it seemed like it was working for a while, but now I know that President Assad has clamped down again, but we need to do what we can to help people get democracy through the proper ways.
Thank you, Linda.
And Jess.
Thank you. Julia, here's your questions. You have a minute and a half. For what reasons do you believe that you have a better chance of defeating Tony Strickland, especially if you've never lived in Ventura County? So you have 90 seconds to handle everything.
Well, I'm very disappointed that I can't answer the first question that you asked. But
you're free to use your 90 seconds however you wish.
Okay, thank you. Look, this is a very important race. It's a transformational moment for Ventura County, and I believe that I can win the primary here, go on to the general, and beat Tony Strickland. That's what I believe I can do. I am running I'm running here because I believe in real issues that really concern real people. I have represented a portion of Ventura County for the last 6 years. I know this community, but most importantly, this is about real people and real issues and getting things done for the people here in Ventura County. And I believe that I have a strong track record that demonstrates my ability to get things done for people who live here in Ventura County. Anybody can look at my track record. It's out there. And I believe that this is a very important, pivotal, transformational time for Ventura County. I look forward to having more in-depth conversations with all of the people of Ventura County. I would like to respond to the first question and just say that I'm the author of the California Disclose Act here in California, and working very hard on this issue and very close to seeing success.
Julia, I'm going to have to stop you there. You will have your closing statement. Linda, a question for you, and this one refers to your past. You have been a supporter of transit here locally, but the Republicans' proposed transportation bill would cut funding for rail, buses, and the types of transit that you have recommended in the past, including ones that reduce greenhouse emissions. So the question is, I know you want to be independent, but aren't these issues where there is a clear moral need and choice important for you to be able to vote on?
I not only want to be an independent, Mr. Marin, I am an independent. And I think your question indicates that perhaps I'm going to side with Republicans. To me, I love the idea that I can vote based on the issue, and I certainly support transit. So that opens it up. And I do want to also say that I very much appreciate that you had the cameras turned off, because wherever I go, they call it political ambush. I have been filmed and photographed. You'll see it on television. Probably this night's session where they were photographing me is so that it will help Julia Brownley's ads. But it has come to such a state of our nation that we have candidates willing to lie to get elected, to say my opponent's not for pro-choice, or my opponent will end Medicare. To me, it is so important that we have this pivotal time, that we have the ability to have someone in Congress who isn't stuck to an ideological position, but actually can listen to all the issues. I'll support a bill. I don't care if it's signed by a Republican or a Democrat. If it's a good bill, I would support it. And I think Congress members need to have that ability to have that trust that you can actually work with both sides of the aisle. And so I feel very strongly if we can elect someone from Ventura County who has lived here for decades.
The growth in the planet as far as the number of people and the finite amount of resources. There's many other good questions as well that we didn't have time to get to. It is time to begin our closing statements. We're going to go in the reverse order, and each candidate will have 2 minutes for the closing statement. And we will begin at this time with Mr. Jess Herrara.
Thank you. Recently,